Checking and corrections are encouraged.
Can we get a cup of coffee in here, please?
The sniffing is just allergies, I promise you. I'm a sniffer, but not. It's not what you think. Oh.
Damn good coffee and hot.
Wake up, America. You've got a dog that needs walking. That's right, sunshine. Just put on a big pot of strong coffee and get ready to type your little hate mail with your opinions about kumbaya and flat earth insanity. Stand-up comedy? You want stand-up comedy? Well, we've got sit-down comedy. It's time for Coffee with the Dog. You make me laugh.
I wish. I'd like to make you laugh if I could. Maybe laugh at me if you want. I hate it. I hate it. All right, guys. You, the man, you over there. 10 guys. Watch me. When I say 10. All right. 10. Very good. Did that very nicely. Well, good morning, folks. It is Tuesday, my least favorite day of the week. It is Tuesday, July 25th, 2023, and things are going on with the lighting here. Hold on. Let me fix the light. Every day, it's one technical issue after another. Good morning. It's a wonderful day in the neighborhood. Beautiful day in the neighborhood. I'm Fred Rogers, your host for the program. Today, my guest will be John Dorsch, who is a musician from Ottawa, Canada. We look forward to hearing from him and learning about his music and all that. Do I seem a little? Yeah, I seem a little. My allergies are driving me crazy. I want to cut off my nose to spite my face. So if you hear the sniffing, it's not what you think. It's allergies. Or unless you think it's allergies, then it is what you think. Where do we begin today? Today we begin with where I abruptly ended yesterday for a period, especially if you were on the radio side listening in, and we had some internet outages because they're doing work in my neighborhood, and they are very sloppy with the back hose and all, and front hose and side hose, all those hose. They're very sloppy with. Anyway, so they were digging a hole and put me out of internet for a few minutes, and we had to end the radio side of it. And the video side just went black for 10 minutes or so. But people were still waiting there, which says to me that people really aren't watching anyway. They kind of have you on in the background. They're listening. They might be, I don't know, have another tab open on the visiting porn sites or whatever they do in the morning that is not really paying attention to what's going on here. And I can't say I blame them. Porn sites are probably a lot more exciting than this. Anyway, where I left off was when that all happened was I was talking about the population here. It was all from this Jason Aldean, try that in a small town thing. And I discovered that my town, I've always known my town was a small town, but I looked up the population. And according to what I found online, there are 522 people in this town, which is the smallest town in I could imagine. I never thought it was that small. I'm going to look it up again here, going back, because I think what I discovered yesterday, and try this in a small town, is that our numbers are we don't know how many people live in this friggin' country. We don't even know how many people live in my town. Okay, it says here in Shoreham, New York, in 2023, there were 524 people. There were 522 in 2021 and 528 in 1990. So we've lost 4 people since 1990. But and Carl sent me to Wikipedia. It said 531, which is uh, that was from 2010 census. So we've lost 6 people since 7 people since 2010. None of it makes any sense because it says we have 145 households here. Now, I went out yesterday, and on my way back, just took the one main road. It's not really a main road. It's North Country Road here to my block, which is Valentine Road. In case you didn't know where I live, got my letter that says uh, to Matt Napo, uh, Matt Napo for Congress from Trailblazer, by the way. Anyway, I live on Valentine Road, off of North Country Road. I counted the houses on North Country Road that I could see. Didn't go down any of the side streets, counting any of those houses. Just 2 roads, North Country Road and Valentine Road. And in Shoreham, I counted 125 houses. Now that was just a small chunk of. Oh, excuse me, this friggin' allergies, man. Small chunk of Shoreham that we were looking at. They say 145 households, but I counted 125 houses just on 2 blocks alone. Uh, and so that number is severely off. So if the point I'm making here, and excuse me with this sniffling, is that if we can't count the people in a small town like this, uh, what are the odds that we could count the people in a large city like New York City? We don't know how many people are. We say 320 million. We have no clue because online, in the census, in Wikipedia, all this stuff, we're putting my town at like 500 plus people. I asked my wife, how much, take a wild guess, how many people live in this town? And she said probably about 7,000. I think she's probably not that far off. But there's a big difference between 7,000 and 500. So if we don't know how many people live in this country, how the hell are we managing the country at all? I mean, I'm not just talking about politicians. I'm talking about anything. We don't know how many people we have, which is crazy. It's it's and again, try this in a small town. If you can't count the people in Shoreham, how can you be even expected to count the people in the United States of America? And it seems to me drastically off, not just a little bit off. This is troubling. And I'm betting. Now, I just did this on a whim yesterday because it seemed odd, but I'm betting if you did this in whatever town you live in, look it up, see what they say, the number of people they say live in your town, whether it's the census or Wikipedia, the numbers will be close on both. You can look up your own town government and they'll give you a estimated population. But then try to figure it out as far as household, how many people that means during a household, and then count the houses. Now, if you live in a big town, it's probably going to be a life-consuming task. So I could understand. But that's my point. How do you do that in New York City or Los Angeles County or any of these giant places where there are millions of people when we can't even count if there's 500 or 7,000 in Shoreham? I think my wife's estimate is probably uh, a little high, like me. I'm not high right now, but I will be at some point. Anyway, it's just curious, and I think it's problematic, and it's one of the things we don't really talk about. If you're not in tune to all the crap that's on social media, yesterday, uh, Twitter became X. People are still calling it Twitter, and they will continue to call it Twitter. Let me tell you something. People don't change what they call shit. Cablevision was the original cable company here on Long Island, New York. And about 8 years ago now, they were bought out and they rebranded to Altice. But still, cable branded all the properties as Optimum. but they rebranded as LTs. People still call it Optimum. People still call it Cablevision 8 years later. Nobody calls it LTs. Nobody say when they say I got to call the cable company. They don't say I got to call LTs. They got to call Cablevision. Cablevision hasn't existed in 8 years. Rebrands, unless you do them right, people don't. The Avenue of Americas in New York City is Sixth Avenue. It was rebranded to the Avenue of Americas. Nobody calls it the Avenue of Americas. People call it Sixth Avenue. That was 80 years ago. So if Twitter, Elon's got this. I don't know what his hang up with X is. He's like fascinated because he tried to do it with PayPal, and that's how he got kicked out of his company, PayPal. His own company was bought out and forced out because he wanted to rebrand it as X. Now he's successfully rebranded, almost successfully rebranded Twitter as X, but it still says up in the search box, it still says search Twitter. And people are going to continue to call it Twitter. The logo doesn't change anything. So poor Elon trying hard to get his X fast fantasy fulfilled, but not being successful in it. And you could go down the line with, rebrands that just didn't stick. And it is what it is, man. It's not going to happen. People are still going to call it Twitter. And what difference does it? Well, he wants to make it this platform that controls everything in your life. People aren't going to go for that. Also, he claims it's losing money, but he wants you to pay for subscriptions so that you can earn money. And here's a weird part about it. Although he claims it's losing money, he was paying out to content creators large sums of money just 2 weeks ago. Like the Krasenberg said, they got a check for $24,000 just for tweeting shit that people follow and engage with. But in order to get that money, he says you got to spend $7 a month to be eligible to earn money on Twitter. But he doesn't tell you need 500 million engagements a month. 500, that's 500 million engagements a month. I don't have that kind of clout. Do you? Does anybody you know putting out content that is getting, when you post something on social media, do 500 million people comment on it, or do you get 500 million total comments? It doesn't have to be 500 million people. It could be like one guy and going back and forth. Excuse me. Damn fucking allergies are I'm gonna punch myself in the face. I know most of you would like to do it for me, but I'm gonna do it for myself because I am so sick of this fucking nose and allergies. I know I complain in the winter; it's cold. I complain in the summer about the allergies. I'm sorry about that. Please forgive me. Another thing I'm curious about here, our friend Brendan Walls. I say our friend very loosely. He's been on the program, but he's not coming back. He doesn't love me. Then nobody loves me. I'm unloved. But Brendan Walsh, who I am a huge fan of, I think he's probably one of the funniest people who ever lived, period. Also, one of the most creative comedians ever. But I think I think he has created a person named Cornell Reed, who claims to be a comedian. Now, Cornell Reed, it says, I'm actually a doctor and I tweet when I'm not doing major surgery, which sounds like something Brendan Walsh would say. The profile picture kind of looks like Brendan Walsh in a cowboy hat. And if you follow Cornell Reed to his website link, it just changed. Wow. Wow, it just changed. That's interesting. Like somebody's working on it today. Yeah. Cornell Reed Comics Home. I guess he's doing comic books. Now, maybe I have this wrong. Now I'm starting to think whether he's getting me or not. I don't know. He could be Maybe he just read because I had just tweeted out did uh, did he create this striptease podcast? What the hell? Site can't be reached. His podcast. He claims to have a podcast, but it's not up right now. The pictures are all. It's very crazy stuff. The pictures are all different. Oh, I just lost it. Different pictures. Now he just a moment ago he had a different website up. Now he's got his link tree up. So he's changing things on the fly. But and here's the thing: Brendan Walsh is talking back and forth to himself, and it looks like he's the only one talking to this Cornell Reed character and busting his balls a little bit. Like, did Brendan? Oh, it says join 2008. Now that's interesting. See, none of this is making sense. But he's doing the stuff that he does with Brendan is doing the kind of stuff he does with Todd Barry, just busting balls, going back and forth. But it looks like he's giving it to himself. And again, the profile picture looks like Brendan Walson in disguise. So I don't know what to make of all this stuff. It wouldn't be the first time that I fell for one of Brendan's pranks. Probably won't be the last time either. Anyway, I'm waiting. John Deutsch is supposed to be here. It's already late. Let me see. Do I have time right? No. He's a 10:15 guy. So I'm supposed to kill an hour here. Uh, wow. That really sucks. I got to kill an hour. And I'm not coming. I'm not going to scoot around and come back. I'm going to play some commercials, blow my nose, and I'll be back in a minute or two or seven. See ya. What? This episode is brought to you by Koa Coffee. If you are a coffee connoisseur and want to experience the best coffee Hawaii has to offer, no blends, no compromise, try the true taste of aloha. Koa Coffee produces premium Hawaiian coffee, hand-picked, expertly roasted, and delivered from Hawaii to your door with aloha. From award-winning 100% Kona coffee grown on the slopes of the Mauna Loa volcano to the unique mocha beans of Maui, they strive to provide their loyal customers with the best quality and freshness. Since 1997, Koa Coffee has been known far and wide as a product of utmost quality, and their awards prove it. Koa Coffee was featured in Forbes' Top 10 Coffees of the World. This is the coffee Forbes called the best coffee in America. Find out what it's all about. Go to minddogtv.com/coffee. Find out what it's all about. It's all about people with allergies. That's what it's all about. Oh, yeah. I don't know if my, all right, I get it. You're pretty, you're running on the beach, you want me to get coffee. I get it. We can get coffee. God, that girl is so beautiful. um, the, the Republican Party, or not the Republican Party, the Fox News and Newsmax people are melting down over, or not like they're doubling down over comments somebody made. I don't know. I think it was probably Jesse Waters who was the first one to make the comments, but now they're all just trying to defend them. That it comes up from the conversation about reparations, and they're saying that slaves benefited from being slaves because they learned trades that they could apply after they were slaves. And think about that. They're basically trying to whitewash slavery, and Florida is teaching this now in schools as an edict from Governor DeSantis that they have to teach this in schools, that slaves actually benefited. They should be grateful that they were made slaves. If I were a black person, I would definitely want reparations. And here's the thing: I'm writing a piece on reparations. It started yesterday. It's almost complete. The gist is this: uh, I don't. I'm not necessarily for reparations. I don't think they will heal racial problems in this country, and our big divide. They won't heal bigotry. In fact, I think they might make things worse. If I were a black person, I'd be all for them, no doubt about it. And I see their point. I see the argument that all of society benefited from the work of slaves. I get that, absolutely. But all society benefited from the exploitation of every immigrant group as well. Maybe not to the same extent that they were enslaved and put in chains, but all society benefited from the mass exploitation of every immigrant group that came here. Do they also deserve reparations, even at a lesser extent or a lesser payment? And here's part of, and this is true. It will never be enough. Where does the money come from, first of all? Is it something that the Fed has to approve printing more money and going into trillions of dollars more debt? That's one question. Where does the money come from to pay these reparations? Now, when it happens, it will never be enough. No matter what the dollar uh, amount was, if you're an African American who was a descendant of slaves, you will never be satisfied with that amount. It will be a right first step, a good first step in many people's minds. It also won't change anything. It won't, uh, and we've seen a million times in in the history of humanity a sudden windfall of cash does not normally lift people out of poverty ever. So you know what? Somebody gave me $2 million. The odds are pretty good that I will blow through it and end up back where I am pretty quickly, and it will be wasted money. There's that. It's also the fact that other groups will be completely resentful. You see, very white people, very scared and angry about the prospect of a bunch of black people getting rich or getting money. They're scared. It's fear. I get it. I totally get it. No, anybody who's been on the top of the pyramid doesn't want on top of the totem pole doesn't want to end up on the bottom of the totem pole, and that's what it feels like. That's what it looks like. So reparations won't heal the divide between and the racial problems we have in America. It won't. It could make things worse. It could make the resentment worse and all that stuff. I do feel like here's my prediction: if a Republican wins the presidency in 2024, and especially if that Republican happens to be Donald Trump, reparations will never happen. In fact, I don't think America as a country will survive that. I do think if Donald Trump, especially Donald Trump, wins, we can forget about elections ever again. He's just going to declare himself a dictator, and when he dies, they'll just name his successor. That's what they want. That's what the Republicans want right now. They don't want to they don't want a government by the people for the people. They want a dictator. They want somebody who can say, "I'm president," and if the elections are just for show, and if I lose, for all of them now, if I lose, it's rigged. The only way it's a fair election is if I win. That's the Republican statement right now. So I don't think, by any means, if a Republican wins in 2024, there will ever be reparations. If you're dead, if that means all that much to you, then you're probably going to go that way. You'll be happy about that. Me, again, as I said, I'm not for reparations, but I'm not going to complain about it because there's not much I could do about it anyway. But I do feel like if Biden or any of the Democrats win, it will eventually happen. I'm not predicting that it will happen in the next 4 years under that term, but I think it's pretty much inevitable that at some point people are going to try reparations as a way of trying to heal a really divided country, and it's still over race 150 years after the Civil War. I don't think it will work, and I think it could make things worse. But again, I'm not going to complain. I don't have a better idea, a better solution. I think society wise, it's a much bigger question than individual wise. A black guy and a white guy can hang out and get along just fine. When we bring that out to white people versus black people, that's where we get into animosity, resentment, um, and holding on to the wounds. And I don't know if empathy and forgiveness are possible in any case on anything, any issue between the races. That is to say. And here's the thing. Let's just, I know this is supposed to be a comedy show, and we have music coming up in the next hour. John Dorch will be here. I timed things wrong. I thought he was on in the morning. I've been fucking up a lot lately. Um, but this is the only shit I got to talk about today. I'm talking about it. Um, let's just say there were reparations to African American descendants of slaves. First thing you're going to have is a lot of people with dark skin going to getting DNA tested to try to prove they have some lineage, some heritage that ties back to slavery, descendants of slaves. They're gonna, basically, uh, let me get another DNA test. There's got to be something in it. Then you have other minority groups who have been oppressed and exploited, and they're going to be really resentful. I mean, why black people getting all this money and we're not? And I'm not just talking about the Jesse Waters Snow White snowflakes who are going to be angry about it and scared that they're losing their top of the totem pole. I'm talking about Hispanics and Asians and Native Americans who will. If we were going to start to talk about reparations, that would be the place, wouldn't it? And I know black people don't like to hear me say that, what, if it were a contest about who's been more oppressed, black people or Native Americans, uh, I kind of lean towards the Native Americans being more oppressed. Uh, Europeans came here, pretty much killed them all off. And the few that were left, they said, go be on a reservation. We'll tell you where you can live and what you can do. And you're still in poverty, extreme poverty, third world poverty here in America on Indian reservations, Native American reservations. Uh, 300 years into our existence, or getting close to 300, 250 years into our existence. Uh, and so, shouldn't they be included? There's going to be resentments all around. I don't see how it's going to heal anything. Again, I'm not going to get on a soapbox and say I don't want it to happen. What a, I have no say in the matter, but I don't have a better idea of how it's going to be fixed. And I do think it comes down to who wins the very next election. A lot people don't get this. A lot of the future of America depends on the presidential election of 2024. If Trump gets in again, and it would be astonishing to see if that happens, because I do expect him to be in jail. I'm hoping he will be in jail. But if not, the vindictiveness and the SS. If you study history, all you have to do is look at what happened. The phone thinks I'm talking. I'm not talking to you, Siri. Get off. Turn yourself off. You look at history. Yeah, yeah. If you if you look at history, you can see what authoritarians do when they feel like they've been wrong. Now he hasn't been wrong. The people who think uh, Trump won and was cheated out of the election are so fucking blind and brainwashed by this fucking cult leader that they forget that he told them 6 months before the election he was going to claim it was fake, that he was ripped off. He knew he was going to lose. The polls were all telling him he was going to lose. Then a week before, he said he was going to claim he was going to come out early and tell them to stop counting the votes. I win. He told you that in advance. He also told you in 2015 he would not accept the results of an election. We know that people like me, who are not flaming liberals, there are a lot of people like me, hate him and see him as what he is, the biggest fucking con man and waste of fucking breath that ever lived. And yes, there are 81 million of us. Ignore the fact that COVID was on his watch and he kept it hidden from people. And he is the reason that we had absentee ballots. Because if he would have done something proactively 2 months in advance when he knew how dangerous COVID was going to be, we wouldn't have had any of the lockdowns. We wouldn't have had to do that. So, yeah, 81 million people voted for Joe Biden. Not voted for Joe Biden. They voted against Donald Trump. And they will do it again. And if you don't know that, hit yourself in the head with a fucking hammer because your fucking brain is useless anyway. Sorry, folks. This is the truth. You can keep sucking the con man's dick forever and ever. Or you could try to fucking fix your party and rid yourself of this shit. But to threaten civil war for a guy who wouldn't fucking waste a spit on you is fucking pathetic. And if you don't like Joe Biden, blame your fucking self. Seriously. If you don't want Joe Biden as president right now, and I know there's a lot of you, blame yourself. If not for Trump, we wouldn't have Joe Biden. If not for Trump, I promise you, we would have a Republican president right now. Probably not an extreme version of authoritarian. You'd have a competent politician in there and somebody who could probably get things done. And now you look at Trump's record. You want to talk about Trump's record? We can go there. He has no fucking. All he accomplished was tax cuts for the rich and more trickle down bullshit that doesn't affect your life. Your life was not better by any objective means under Donald Trump than it is right now. And I'm not singing the praises of Joe Biden. I'm just saying the main promise that Donald Trump made to you. Now, this is important. The main promise he made to you that he was going to lock her up. He was threatening his main opponent, who was ahead of him in the polls that whole time in 2016. He was threatening her with prison time. Now, and by the way, I was for that. I've said always that Hillary Clinton has been a career white collar criminal, and that's one thing I would have loved to see. Lock her up. Yeah, Hillary Clinton is, but also remember, Clinton's and Donald Trump were good friends that whole time until he decided to run against her. Then he was like, lock her up. The reason Trump got into politics in the first place was because Barack Obama beat his friend Hillary Clinton in a primary. And he was pissed off about that, which has got him into the whole birther thing and all that stuff. But now he wants to claim that it's wrong to threaten somebody who's running for president with jail time. But he did it. he built his campaign on that. His first campaign was all about lock her up. He had you chanting lock her up, you fucking idiots. But you don't remember that because con man just with his fucking hands and his bullshit rhetoric has you hypnotized. I'm sorry, but you need a smack. You definitely need a smack. You need to come back to reality. I understand hating the Democratic Party. I do. I get it. Been there. I also understand hating the Clintons because I do think they escaped justice for a whole lot of crimes, not murders. You know, if somebody, Patrick Bet David, was a fucking idiot. On his podcast, was yelling at Anthony Weiner about the Clinton body count. Well, all right, let me hear about who. Weiner couldn't answer this, but the answer to that is who. Give me the names of the Clinton body count that you're supposedly talking about. Silence. Vince Foster. Vince Foster committed suicide in the park. That's as much as we don't want to accept that. Now, his suicide was driven by cover-ups of white-collar crimes that Hillary Clinton did. I'm not saying she's innocent, but she didn't pull the trigger. She didn't murder him. Vince Foster is the only body on the Clinton body count. Seth Rich has been debunked more times than I've changed my underwear in my life. Maybe about the same number. I don't know. But they stick to this guy. Clinton. Everybody around the Clintons dies. No, that's not true. That's fucking Fox Pizzagate nonsense. QAnon silliness. But don't bother to check it out. Just repeat it. I would love to see Hillary Clinton in prison for her insider trading stuff, for her real estate fraud, for all the overbilling and the Travelgate pay for play stuff in the White House that she was doing when she was not. She had no official position within the White House. I'd love to see her in jail for that. You wanna lock her up? Do it. But don't give me this shit like there's an equivalency, and she's a murderer, a mass murderer, and the Clintons are mass murderers. No, they were friends of Donald Trump the whole time, and Trump enabled their political rise. That's the truth. The reason they moved to New York is Donald Trump. Donald Trump was their main enabler. If you're mad about Hillary Clinton, comes back to Donald Trump. If you're mad about Joe Biden being president, it comes back to Donald Trump. It comes back to you personally, Trump supporters. You don't like it? Fuck yourselves. You need to be smacked with a little fucking reality. Sorry. That's life, folks. You dug this hole. And personally, the hole has not really been that bad. I mean, if you look at the real results so far of the Biden administration for a guy who is definitely in cognitive decline. Pretty fucking impressive what they've been able to get done with a house that is run by fucking crazy people. House of Representatives is run by QAnon crazies. They're going to impeach him without any evidence. Kevin McCarthy is saying they're getting close to getting ready to impeach Biden. Over what? What is the fucking crime deal? Well, we don't really have crimes, but we'll get to that. That's the answer you get from these fucking people. No, you actually have to have something to charge them with, something that rhymes to misdemeanors, that whole thing. They don't have it, but they're still talking about it. And they probably will pass a resolution to impeach him. But what will happen out of it is, you won't get a conviction in the Senate. So it's a waste of time, more wasting time, trying to distract you from the fact that you voted for a real career criminal and somebody who wants to make America an authoritarian country. So when it comes back to where I started with this, with reparations, if Donald Trump wins, it'll never happen. If you are dead set and reparations are that important to you, and you're so fearful of black people, descendants of slaves, getting money from the government that probably won't have a positive effect on their personal lives for the most part. Maybe a few cases you'll see people who put the money to good use, but in most cases, as is all human nature, people get windfalls. Like those people who got the stimulus checks that was supposed to provide them with food and rent money, and they went out and bought color TVs and whatever. People, this is what happens when people get windfalls. And we've had television shows based on that whole The Millionaire, where people got a check for $1 million and it would always ruin their lives. Not just not improve their lives, it ruined their lives. Getting windfalls can often have really bad results, and that's why I'm against it. But if you're really afraid of black people getting money from the government for being descendants of slaves, if that drives you with fear, if that fills you with fear, then you can take some solace that if Republicans get in, it won't happen. Now, on the opposite, I think if the Democrats win the next election, eventually it will happen. I'm not saying when. It could be 10 years, it could be 5 years, but eventually it will happen. And I don't have a better solution, although I think it will probably have derogatory effects on all of us, including race relations and including the people who actually get the money. I don't have a better solution, so I'm not going to complain about any of it. For me personally, I'm pretty close to checking out. And that doesn't mean I'm going to kill myself, but checking out completely of caring about any of this stuff. Every day, though, every day they tweak you with the bullshit and the nonsense and the stuff that you really shouldn't care about. And we come down. I'll come back. I'm gonna play a song and I'm gonna come back and take a break. I didn't realize I was gonna have to kill an hour. So talk about worst lies. Let's talk about the worst lie that you ever told. I remember the first time I saw you. I thought, she's so beautiful. This is too good to be true. And then you kissed me, and in a moment I was sold. And you said you loved me, but that's the worst lie that you ever told. I remember not believing you were gone. What would hurt the worst was you sent your mama to tell me that I should just move on. Never thought you could ever be so cold, but you said you loved me, and that's the worst lie that you ever told. And I believed it, 'cause I needed to somehow. Just like that fool that you're living with. believes it now. I remember the last time that we met. You said all those words that I never will forget. Empty promises, but nothing I could hold. And you said you love me, but that's the worst lie that you ever told. Yeah, you said you love me, and that's the worst lie that you ever told. I dig that truck. That truck is still there. I don't know when I did that. Probably about 7 years ago or so. That video. Um, but lately, I had hit a spot, a lull, the greatest lull in my life of songwriting. I've been writing songs, but not generally. I wouldn't go a week without producing 2 or 3 demo songs a week. Um, Not for necessarily publication, just to have a sketch pad of songs that I had written. And I hadn't done that since sometime last September when I had a major computer blow up or something like that. I want to call it that. And lost a lot of my recording software and all that stuff. So I hadn't done it, even though I had put the software back on the machines months ago. I hadn't been doing. I just didn't had no desire to get back into the production side of it. 'Cause writing a song is simple. You sit there with an instrument, generally a guitar or a piano or something, and scribe out what you're doing. But when it comes down to making a decent sketch that you want to be able to kind of have an outline for the song in case you ever want to really produce it, that's work. It's hard work. Oh, and my voice is becoming yet now. By the way, can I just go back to politics for 1 second? And this isn't necessarily political. Why can't I get a straight answer on what the hell's wrong with Robert F. Kennedy's voice? I mean, he sounds like Katharine Hepburn from On Golden Pond. And it's like the elephant in the room. Nobody's even talking about it. If you ask about it, it gets ignored. Like it just goes over, like it's mean to talk about his voice. I'm not necessarily picking on him about it, but I am going to make fun of it now until I get a fucking answer. They tell me, oh, it's because somebody shoved the dead babies down his throat. Then maybe I'll feel bad about it and stop picking on him over it. I don't know. Shoving dead babies might be a little extreme. Anyway, yeah, that's all I got to say about that. But where the fuck was? Oh, writing songs. So I have just last night. I started doing another sketchpad thing on music, which I've been laying off of for a long time, and I got something that I really feel. I impressed myself, which is hard for me to do. I don't impress myself very easily. But I put together this thing. Now I have to sing it, and so I put down acoustic tracks. I did a little cello playing in the background of it. I haven't put the bass part yet. Working on the drums this morning, but then sometime in the next day or so, I'm gonna have to sing it. And I know what it's not for me. It's not the kind. It's a pretty song, and I'm not a pretty singer. And I don't mean just to look at. I mean to listen to. I'm not a person who can put over a ballad or even like a Broadway Broadway show tune in any case that would make people say wow, because it's about the vocal performance, and a song is a song is a song, and the song should be able to stand on its own without vocal performance. But I have an idea of what I want, and I know I don't have the skills, technique, or power or confidence in myself to be able to deliver the kind of vocal performance I think the song needs. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I don't really, I've done the AI stuff to the point where I know what can be done with AI. I know how I can manipulate my voice, but then it doesn't sound like my voice. And people will say, well, that's not you singing. And that sucks. And so I'm probably not going to use the AI stuff. I don't know if I'm going to hire another singer. Listen, I've been working with Mikey for 23 years. He's not a studio original. He's not a song interpreter. He's not a guy that you take into the studio. He's great in live performance. He has a strong, powerful voice. But in the studio, he's not a recording artist, and he's not really an artist in general. He needs to be directed, and I'm not that guy. I'm not the vocal coach. I'm not the person that. If I was, I'd coach myself. So I need a really good singer if I'm going to do this. And you know, I, putting an ad out for a really good singer to collaborate with on this song will hurt some people's feelings. People who think that they should be entitled, like he being one of them, probably, to be the singer on songs that I record. And I don't want to do that. So it's a conundrum. I'm not sure what my solution is and all that stuff. I don't know. Is Brett off from work today? Hey Brett, you up for work today? Uh, yeah. I don't know. Anyway, I'm seeing Brett Erickson online, and generally this is the time of day where he would be working, and they're seeing him on Twitx. Um, and I'm just wondering. I'm seeing him a lot today. Haven't heard back from Marianne Williamson. I have invited her to be on the program. I think that not hearing back is an answer in itself. And I think the answer is no. Now, she did the thing with Hassan Abi, which, quite frankly, was not all that informative. It was a very weird. If you see a presidential candidate next to a guy in his playroom in front of it, his apartment sitting next to him, and he's talking this way and she's here talking this way. It was just a very weird uh and he's got the streaming stuff and all these chat room stuff popping up on the screen, and he's paying attention to that and chewing gum while he's supposedly interviewing a presidential candidate. I can promise you, as clumsy as it would be with me, it would be more impressive than Hassan Abi. And I think Hassan Abi is a smarter guy than me. Don't get me wrong. I think he's well informed. I think he's well educated. He knows his shit about the issues, but he's not an interviewer. He's a streamer who plays games and watches Rogan clips and generally eats in front of his audience. Uh, it's just I don't think he lends respectability to any presidential candidates. And would I honestly probably not? This would probably be slumming it, but I guarantee. Um, See, because she has Hassan's audience already, and I brought this up yesterday. She's a TikTok person, and the young people, if 18 to 25-year-olds were all that were voting, I think she would win. I think she would win the Democratic nomination pretty easily. I think she would win the general election pretty easily if we were only talking about 18 to 25-year-olds having the vote. But that's not the case. As a matter of fact, the people from 25 to 90 are the people who are going to make make the majority of the decision here, right? Still that way. And people my age need to hear that she's not fucking crazy, that she's not some channeling, crystal praying, um, alien channeler, Atlantis channeler, nut job, new age nut job. We need to hear that. My generation needs to hear that. And until she makes that pitch, I don't think she has a chance. I mean, and she's still it's the 80-20 or what are they, Pareto principle. 80-20, you focus your efforts on the 20% that's going to actually bring you results, not waste your energy on the 80%. But in this case, the 20%, she's got wrapped up already. She doesn't need to do any more work on the young people. She needs to convince people who are not 18 to 25 that she's not crazy. And that here is probably a good place to start doing that. You know, lately, I have to say this. I don't have to say this, but I'm going to say this. Lately, I'm getting a lot of new followers who are comedians or musicians on Facebook and Twitter. I'm not doing anything to create this, but every day I'm getting several new ones on both platforms. And obviously, I could have used another guest here this morning because I'm rambling for an hour, stalling for John Dorsch, who's coming in. But I have not reached out to any of these people, and I'm feeling like, you know what? I don't want to set myself up with, because I've done that before. Every time comedians would ask, friend request me, I would reach out to them and invite them on the show and get to know them a little better, but and know their comedy, know how long, do a full interview with them. But it backfired so many times, and so many of them have been flakes about it that I'm kind of not doing that right now. I'm just letting it sit for a while, and then the platform hides them from me, so I can't. I don't remember. Like a week from now, I'm not going to remember who friend requested me yesterday that I actually approved. Excuse me again. Allergies, man. I am telling you, this has got to be the worst allergy season ever for me, and it's brutal. It's brutal here. I'm sneezing, the runny nose, the hay fever, and I do think it probably has something to do with the air quality from this summer due to wildfires or whatever. The air quality has been really, really brutal, really, really brutal. Anyway, I'm gonna play another song. You know what? I'm gonna play another commercial while I'm making some money here. I'll take a break.
Over 2 million guitar players worldwide learn, practice, and play with TrueFire. Our learning tools and massive library of video lessons will ignite your technical skills, harmonic knowledge, rhythm playing, and soloing chops. TrueFire's educators are the best in the biz, from Grammy Award winners to world-renowned artists. You'll have access to an unparalleled faculty of over 300 top-notch blues, rock, jazz, country, fingerstyle, and acoustic guitar educators. Using our desktop and mobile apps, you'll work with TrueFire's multi-angle video lessons on any device, anytime, anywhere. Integrated learning tools such as video synced tab and notation, slow-mo, looping, practice jam tracks, and many more handy controls accelerate your learning experience. TrueFire style-specific learning paths guide you every step of the way. Use our assessment tools to find your starting point, then follow our lesson recommendations and track your progress as you work through your personalized TrueFire study plan. Progress faster with private one-on-one instruction, group lessons, multi-track video jams, live streams, song lessons, student forums, TrueFire's Riff magazine, premium jam tracks, and much, much more. With thousands of 5-star ratings and reviews from amateur and pro players alike, you'll find yourself in good company with the world's most comprehensive guitar learning platform. Grab your guitar and ignite your musicality. Sign up free for an all-access trial today.
Yeah, that whole musicality thing. I'm inviting it. Dear Musicality, would you like to come over and hang with me today? I would love to. And I'm going to be doing some music. Not the minute. I'll tell you the first thing. The minute the show's over, I'm going to roll a fatty. It's what I do now. Kick-ass sativa. And then I'm going to be working on music today. Best time to do it is during the day. It's quiet around here. I can screech like a dead cat and not bother anybody. Neighbors won't even hear me. By the way, speaking of the neighbors not hearing you, that Rex Heuermann, our Long Island serial killer, he had a soundproof room in his basement. Architect who built a soundproof room, which had an exit that went through his garden so he wouldn't have to. Well, I'm just saying, surmising here, so he wouldn't have to drag bodies through his house. I think, obviously this is all conjecture, and I don't know, but it sounds like he was killing the girls in his house. He would have them somehow get them to his house, get them into his little soundproof dungeon there, so that they could scream all they want, and the neighbors wouldn't hear them. Fucking creepy as hell. But it seems like he's one of those guys who got off on the screaming part of it. So he built this soundproof dungeon type of thing in his house, and he could pull bodies out, supposedly, I guess, or hypothetically, pull bodies out without having to drag them to his house. Now, the way it works, the reality of the fact is, killing people in your house, it's almost impossible. It would be nearly impossible to remove every piece of DNA that might happen in the course of a violent murder. So and the cops are still there. And this is 10 days, now 12 days after he's been arrested, right? 10 days after his arrest. They're still there night and day with the, hazmat suits on, taking stuff out of his house, all that kind of stuff. We're going to hear a lot more about the evidence that they have against Heuermann. But it seems this guy was a fucking monster, man. I mean, a monster. They say he was constantly burning trash, so he's burning evidence. I mean, no, who has that much trash that you're gonna burn? And first of all, it's illegal. Why was nobody calling the cops or at least the fire department on this guy constantly burning trash in his yard? But it definitely seems like we're gonna hear a lot more about this. Now, again, we'll keep following this case, but I'm disturbed that he's not charged with more, and it's because they don't have evidence. But that doesn't mean he didn't do it. With more of the crimes, we know there were at least 10 bodies on that strip on Ocean Parkway, kind of spread out. I mean, 4 of them were in close proximity to Shannon Gilbert. Shannon Gilbert is not part of the case, according to the law enforcement, which I don't understand. It's still to this day that she was doing the same things that the girls who were murdered, who are part of this case, were doing, and that means Craigslist escort work. She was a Craigslist escort. She's found 500 yards from where they are, pants off, and they want to claim that she's not part of this case. She died as an accident, even though she made two 911 calls, said they're after me and they're going to kill me. They. She didn't say he. They. Very interesting why, and I'm not getting any really satisfactory answers as to why he's not being charged in that case. But there's many other cases that are same MO, same dumping spot. You listen, the odds of having several serial killers dumping all in a place which is highly guarded by the police, having to brazen at the same time. This is what the police are wanting you to accept as their theory, that there were more than one serial killer operating in the same area, dumping bodies in the same place at the same time in a highly policed area. You have to be pretty crazy to even go there, to even imagine that could be possible. But this is what they're trying to feed you. Anyway, so we'll continue to learn more about him, but I expect at some point he's been charged with 3 murders. He probably will be charged with the 4th, but he's probably guilty of 10 or more, and probably even more than that. I just think when they started finding the bodies, he started looking for a new place to dump them. He didn't stop killing. History shows. I mean, sometimes these guys take breaks, right? Serial killers, even Jack the Ripper took some periods of time between his crimes. BTK, and by the way, BTK had written a letter, I guess, from prison to the DA, claiming to know about the Long Island serial killer. He had a lot in common with him. He probably does understand his mindset somewhat. Excuse me. Time for more coffee. Anyway, we're waiting John Dorsch, who is a guitarist, singer, songwriter from Ottawa, Canada. Probably starting wildfires at this moment to mess with my allergies. That's probably what he's doing. He will be here in probably 7.5 minutes or so. That's when he's due here. But I'm going to blame him for this terrible air quality that I'm having. I'm going to read you. I know it's been full of politics, and you hate fucking politics, and this is why I get all the hate mail. You hate my political views. Kevin McCarthy talking to Sean Hannity about saying he's going to impeach Joe Biden. For what? He's going to impeach him. We've only followed where the information has taken us, but Hannity, this is rising to the level of impeachment inquiry, which provides Congress the strongest power to get to the rest of the knowledge and information needed, McCarthy told Fox News' Sean Hannity on Monday. What crimes are you investigating? Burisma. What? What are you looking into? Get specific about it. Nothing. Well, it's all about we don't care as long as we don't have to deal with what's real and the real problems we're having. We can just distract you from all this nonsense and keep you distracted with cable news stories that just exhausting shit, man. It really is. Anyway, that's what we're faced with. That's what we're dealing with. I will be back in just a minute. Let's say a minute. Gonna get some fresh coffee. And when we come back, we're gonna meet John Dorsch, who is a singer-songwriter from Ottawa, Canada, who has at least pictures on his website of him and Tommy Emmanuel. He is a finger picking kind of guy, but he doesn't seem to be doing Travis picking. I want to learn all about exactly what his modality is and the kind of music that he is into creating. And we'll learn a lot about that in just a minute. I'm going to get some fresh coffee. You should get some fresh coffee too. Make sure it's Koa coffee. Koa coffee is one of the best coffees in the world. It's rated #1 by Forbes in the United States of America, top 10 coffees of the world. I'll be back in just one moment. Hang on.
Hey, yeah, mind dog, yeah, mind dog. If you ready for some action, this dog sure to keep you laughing. Let's go. Mind dog, yeah, mind dog. Don't roll, don't play fetch, only here to keep your interest. This is the show that you've been missing, full of comedians and musicians, plenty of interviews, entertaining. Keep it funny, there ain't no debating. So authentic and straight raw, pushing the limits when they talk, doing it live when they stream. Mind dog TV, yeah, so crazy, getting intense. The dogs are wild, better beware before you hop over the fence. Mind dog, yeah, mind dog. If you ready for some action, this dog sure to keep you laughing. Let's go. Mind dog, hey, mind dog. Don't roll, don't play fetch, only here to keep your interest. Let's go. Come have coffee with the dog.
Come have coffee with the dog. Or not. Yeah, it's good coffee. Anyway, I want to find the link is in the description for you folks out there. Hear you, John Dorsch music. Just wanted to refresh my memory of the name of the song I'm going to want to ask him about. Yeah, I'm kind of burnt out. Song titles don't stick with me. Yeah, okay. All right, there's a couple of them I'm going to want to talk to him about. Anyway, John Dorsch, as I mentioned, is a singer-songwriter, guitarist who is from Ottawa, Canada. He has started out as probably the way a lot of us go. We're in love with guitar and lead guitar and stuff like that. At some point, changed directions and became a finger-picking singer-songwriter, and performs with his wife, who plays the djembe and sings harmony with him. He's here now. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome John Dorsch to Coffee with the Dog. John, welcome.
Good morning. I hope you're
Good
well.
morning. How are you?
I'm great. It's a great day.
Are you responsible for these wildfires that are killing me and my allergies down here? Are you doing this to me?
I'm not sure who's actually responsible for those, but there's a couple of different theories. But I'm not part of the problem here. I'm sucking up part of the problem myself with the wildfires.
Yeah.
Anyway,
my wife has a crazy conspiracy theory about that. She thinks, and I'm not going to make this about that, but my wife thinks that the mining for Bitcoin uses supercomputers that are running so hot, and they have these Bitcoin mining farms up in Canada, in the northern parts of Canada, like in the Yukon. And she thinks those are responsible for overheating and starting the fires. That's her claim, and I'm like, that's crazy. I mean, I know they get hot. Computers do get hot, and supercomputers get hot, but I don't think they're burning down Canada. Anyway, it's just a crazy thing. A lot of crazy theories.
that's a new one. I remember I had an old high watt 100 amplifier, and it actually started behaving very badly. And I took it in, and the tech called me right back because he'd seen something he never saw before. Two of the main four power tubes. I was using a power soak, which creates the thing to work at like 120%. And it actually melted the two power tubes and melted holes in them, but it was still running. So it sounded dirty as hell, but it was really interesting. So you had to replace and rebias the head. It was an anomaly.
So you grew up a rocker, right? Into rock, lead guitar and that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. I started on accordion. That was my parents' idea. Do polkas, become a doctor, play at weddings, stuff like that. And I discovered guitar. My uncle took me to see his brother's touring rock band in Kingston when I was about probably 12. And that's where I got the bug. The singer put a Gibson Les Paul in my hands, and I got to try to play Taking Care of Business. And they were so gracious. And it was like playing on a real stage with, a real band. Saw Jimmy Page and started on down the road of trying to learn all of that.
Taking Care of Business, great Canadian band, Bachman Turner Overdrive, who were originally the Guess Who, I guess. They evolved from the Guess Who. Canadian music has a big history of population-wise, percentage-wise of the population having a lot more great acts in the United States, but people here would never in the United States would never acknowledge that. But if you ask people who's the best, who's a great American band, most people really they will name the Beatles, not American. They will name the Stones, not American. They will name Canadian acts, though. But trying to find the great American, and there are a few. I'm not saying that we don't, but population-wise, considering the population of Canada and the population of the United States, Canada outweighs the United States talent-wise tremendously. Why do you think that is?
Maybe it's our long winters. We get stuck in the kitchen playing kitchen parties, maybe more. More music. There's music everywhere in Canada, all different styles. There's Celtic out on the East Coast. There's new age stuff. There's rock all over the place. There's country, like well rooted in here. Like Alberta's our little Texas, and there's a very vibrant music scene. Everything from bluegrass to opera here going on. So.
Right. Do you like those other kind of genres now? Did you, because you say you started out in rock, and most of us did, but did you acquire a taste for like country and folk up there or not?
It's like my mind expanded steadily till today, sort of thing. I started off just being enamored with the innovators like John Lennon, Paul McCartney, the Van Halen, anybody that was pushing the envelope of great guitar prowess, that kind of thing. I kind of fell in love with, and then of course the country genre has all these great chicken pickers like uh, Brad Paisley, any one of them. You pick them all. Like the music has everything, for a guitar player that would ever want in every genre. So that was kind of drew me even to swing jazz. I was playing in a jazz band for a little bit. I played country songs in every cover band I've ever been in. So I grew to love the style. It's not very far off 70s rock as new country, kind of, you know what I mean? A lot of LA players are in that, in Nashville now. It's the same, it's a really it's a chameleon kind of industry. Everybody's borrowing licks and ideas from everybody else
Yeah.
and make it sound great.
Yesterday, I saw a reel on social media. It was called "Chicken Picking Shredding," and it was like a cross between Brad Paisley and Eddie Van Halen. Some guy working on a Telecaster, but doing hybrid somewhere in between Brad Paisley and Eddie Van Halen. It was very interesting, though, and I did save it and shared it, and I didn't get the guy's name, but I'm following. But yeah, there is a lot of that going on. Um, I want to talk about your music, but let me um, talk about Tommy Emmanuel, and because it looks as though more than once you've had a meeting with him, unless there were all the different pictures taken in different settings at one meeting. But it seems like you've had more than one occasion to meet him. Tell me about that.
That's true. I wasn't aware of him until about probably, I think it was around 2000, I guess 2010 or something around that that length. I was trying to play songs like "Dust in the Wind" and "Going to California." I was needing to expand. I was playing the rock guitar mold sort of thing, and I always loved how Jimmy Page and the big bands did acoustic. Like "Stairway to Heaven," they blended the acoustic with the great rock song, doing those kind of things. And there was nobody around here that could teach that. Found a local guitar player just by chance. It was a great fingerstyle Canadian guitar player, and he sent me a fingerstyle package to start learning how to do it. So I started down that, and then a friend in Deep River, it's more north of Ontario. He was a guitar player and had 100 guitars and played in a country band. He goes, "Have you ever heard of Tommy Emmanuel?" And I said, "I don't know who you're talking about. He's a guitar wizard from Australia." And so he put on this YouTube video, and it was him playing classical gas and just blowing the strings off the guitar. But in entertainment value, it was he's not just a guitar player; he's just a complete entertainer as well. And I go, wow, I gotta I
Yeah.
gotta I gotta have some of that, somehow or whatever. So I started learning that tabs and all that kind of stuff and playing it wrong and making mistakes. And when you try to play fast and you make a mistake, you haven't learned it right, it doesn't work fast. So you have to relearn everything all the time. So it was a frustrating process to learn it. But in a jazz band around 2012. He announced a date in Montreal or Quebec City. So I thought I'm going to go down and see him. He was playing with Frank Vinola from New York and some top level jazz players. Vinny Raniolo was in a jazz trio, and they were doing Django crazy guitar. And I thought, I got to see this. It's just another coincidence. I'm doing jazz now, and he's doing jazz. So it's like, so went up to Quebec City. I met him backstage. He signed a couple of videos, blew my mind with a performance, and it's like wow, you know. So it's like, you know, I wrote a song, Fort Hemlock. You know, I sent it to him, and I got a response. He loved the song, so which is really
Wow, that's
cool.
cool.
Yeah, it's really kind of cool. So I went down on my first guitar camp. I thought, you know what, I gotta learn some of the music directly from him. He plays guitar camps probably once or twice a year through the U.S. or the odd time he'll do New Zealand or some place like that. So I went all the way down to the first one was in Louisiana. That was in 2015. I drove all the way down there, spent, you know, a
Holy
week traveling
crap.
to Louisiana and Nashville, sucking up as much music as I could, guitar and car, and ended up in I think it was called White Church, Louisiana, on the Baton Rouge River, right? So, and it was like 6 days of guitar insanity with all great guitar players. You know, Frank Vinola was there. We're having dinner. You get to know the man, and it's like you get to know how a professional like him lives his life. You know what I mean? And what's, you know, the ups and downs that have happened to him. But you know, you get to see, you know, what it takes to be a person that does that. And I just need more of that. You know, it was just so inspiring that
Yeah, he
I
is
didn't
a
want.
major inspiration. I mean, I have found out about him somewhere around 1999 through videos that people were sharing, and I was just in awe. Like I first, my it was disbelief at first. Like there's got to be some trickery going on here. I mean, nobody can play all that kind of at once. The percussion, the bass line, the melody, and it was just amazing to me. And the more I because he was doing a lot of experimental music besides, you know, just covering like classical gas and Beatles songs and doing those chord melody things. He was doing some original stuff that was experimental stuff, and I was just like, there's got to be some trickery going on here. So yeah, I'm totally in awe of him. The one thing that strikes me about him is his hands. When you go to shake his hand, you realize that he's got like Bigfoot
His
hands.
fingers are like this long. Okay, so like he can like, you know, fret all the way to the 12th fret, but his fingers
Right.
never, they never
It's
wear
not
out.
fair. It's not fair. I want those hands. um, so yeah, well, that had to be a great experience for you anytime you got to meet him, and good for you. Now, Frank Vignola is a local boy here. I mean, local boy, but for years people were saying, you know, why isn't this guy more known? It's great to see him get the acclaim and you know, appreciation that he deserves. For you now, coming back to you, singing and songwriting were not where you started, right? That was something that came later in life.
Yeah, I was always singing backgrounds in, you know, in the bar band era. I did probably, I don't know, 30 years of bar bands and different stuff, you know, sort of thing. Playing there, doing all the backgrounds of the day. So it's like at some point I started amassing, you know, a repertoire of my own ideas to write songs, looking for the perfect songwriting Paul McCartney partner, and that never materialized. There's a lot of people that just, you know, say their wish, you know, I'd love to do that or whatever, but they just never commit. And I learned over the years you have to rely on yourself. So it was about 2015. I decided that's it. I'm just going to start singing my own music and stop the search for somebody else because I just found them. That's me. And so I learned to sing at that point. And put the hands together. It was a very difficult process, but not insurmountable. It took a lot of work. I had a vocal coach for about 8 months. Her name is Renee Laundry from Ottawa. She does an Amy Winehouse. Um, um, so to describe how she would sound, she's a fabulous singer. And I wanted somebody completely not just a male genre, somebody to take me out of where I was to someplace new to take me out of where, what my idea of singing was, and how to proper technique. And of course, my technique was all wrong. You're just killing your voice and screaming and whatever. But you learn to sing after a while, because it's the only way you can survive.
Yeah. I love accents, and I heard a Canadian accent from you until that you just said the word about. Anytime you want to expose the Canadian accent, ask them to say about. Uh,
We're about the closest to Minnesota is about the closest to where we are. People from Minnesota sound similar, but anyway.
uh, um, so let me. Well, I'm gonna first talk to you about the other day. I found on Netflix. I don't know why I was just like screaming, looking for something musical to get inspired by, and I found this a thing on Netflix, a documentary called Rumble, and there's a tagline to that, but it's about the influence of Native Americans, Native North Americans, on pop music and all the current music that we have. And it totally blew my mind, and I didn't realize how much Native American music influence there was in rock and roll and all that stuff. Listen to your song "Faith in Me," and I hear that. I know that the percussion has a lot to do with it, but overall, it feels like it's got some of that influence. Was that intentional? Were you aware of it? Am I the first person who said that to you?
I was intentional about the beat. I wasn't thinking like in indigenous lines, but I'm actually at this moment. I'm actually taking a course on the First Nations peoples through University of Alberta. I'm quite interested in that. And last winter, I traveled all the way through Mexico and very into the different tribal origins of Mexico, and in through Guatemala. So I'm kind of into that, and I've sucked a lot of that music up over the last few years of travel. Started with Mexico, probably about, and the Spanish culture about the time. So another song on the album, I deliberately used a Latin figure called the tresillo, which is a figure you hear in a lot of music as a foundation for the guitar lick that I came up with, and not a drum beat, but the guitar lick. So anyway, with that song, I wanted a deliberate heartbeat, something to be just to draw you in. It's like this really kind of slow, anticipating heartbeat. And that appears like the native drumming circles are very much like that. Sometimes they go quite fast, but this is more of the start of the circle, I guess.
Right. Very cool stuff. Now, has your wife always been a part of your musical journey?
And no, actually, so all of that sort of fell through, or fell in organically. I went to work in Ottawa, and she was a trainer when I first arrived at work in Ottawa, teaching the radio communication system. I was a police officer for 31 years, so she was my radio trainer in the radio room when I first arrived there for the last 11 years of my career. And then she was my dispatcher, so I only knew her as a voice for several years, and then she became a coordinator of extra duties, doing traffic and all this kind of stuff. And then she started showing up at some of my musical band bar gigs. We had a bunch of bands going, and then we just figured out she figured out who I was because she saw my picture at work. So we eventually fell in love that way. And after we got married, I still had bands going. I would catch her singing, in harmony with me, when I was rehearsing, right? So it's like, you know what, that sounds great. We should just do our own thing. And that's how it developed. And with all the shutdowns and all the bands ending, with all of that stuff, it just became the natural process that she's just my musical partner now, and helps me with all my stuff and sings with me. So it's like, and she helps me with the production and editing process. Why don't you try, with that particular song, Faith in Me, I wrote it as like an 80s ballad, and I hadn't put it out, and I thought it needs something else, but I don't know what. So I played it for her, and she suggested that because I had the resonator guitar right here behind me, it was new at the time, and I was wanting to play more of a blues kind of a thing. She says, just, use your slide and sit with the resonator and see what happens. And that's what happened. Actually, it was that particular song happened with that. So it's
Very
more of a
cool story.
yeah.
Yeah,
there it is.
you know what? I'm not get too sentimental, mushy, stupid, and emotional on this, but it sounds like that story would have a good basis for a romance novel. The idea of knowing her voice before for 10 years before you actually met her and all that stuff. It would. I mean, I could, and
Sure.
enough authors that I talk to, I'm going to talk to them about that as an idea. I'm not, I don't love the whole. I've had to read a lot too many romance novels before interviews with people, that more than I would want because it wouldn't be my choice of reading material ever, but it's part of what I do. But when listening to you say it, it sounds like the plot of a romance novel.
They're not my reading choices either, but apparently it's a life choice. So
Right? Yeah, yeah. Um, Interesting. You talk about production now, and that's exactly where I wanted to go for. You're recording this stuff yourself. You produce your own work. You have your own studio. Is that how you work?
yeah, at the time, coming into 2020, I'd had a bunch of songs written, and I was trying to get a drummer to commit to the project, sort of thing. And my idea was to go in a studio and record it. I'd never been into it. I've been with other people recording guitar parts and things like that, but I'd never gone in and done my own thing. So I was kind of saving up in my mind for that. But when everything kind of shut down there, I thought, you know what? I'm gonna have to reinvent my whole idea of music here because it's not gonna be the same. There's no places to play. There's no bands I was playing with. So I'm just gonna redesign what I'm doing here. So my wife actually encouraged me on this. So I actually bought this building here, had it delivered. It was like an Amish shed built by the Amish community. So it's like a
You
garden
have
shed.
Amish in Canada? I'm shocked. I did not know. I thought they were only in Pennsylvania. I'm sorry to
Oh,
interrupt,
no.
but you just shocked me. Yeah.
I know we might have sent them down there. I'm not sure. We have a huge community here. So anyway, it all the way across Canada, Alberta, in Ontario. Very actually there's a farm down the road. I get eggs at all that kind of stuff. Anyway, but this building here, so we insulated it, I wired it up, interneted it, bought all the software and all the recording equipment, moved all my stuff in here, and it's a recording studio is what it is. So I built that all from scratch. Had to learn it all from scratch, get some decent microphones, watched countless YouTubes, and I recorded everything on that album myself. Is what I did
Wow.
painstakingly. It took me 2 years to do the whole thing, and I took it to a professional studio in Ottawa. Dave Draves at Little Bullhorn. He does Kathleen Edwards and a bunch of upper level Canadian artists and things like that. And he loved the project and mixed and mastered it all for me and just finished it off. I wanted independent ears on the project, but I did it all right from the ground up and kind of built the studio to do the album.
Interesting
So
stuff. And you talk about the opportunities for playing live, and that's where I was going to go next because um, you're doing all original now. You're not doing just covers, right? So, are you playing out? Are you performing live anywhere? Do you have those opportunities?
we have been actually playing the music scene has come back now. A lot of places have reopened, but probably no more than half that used to be there. I would think there's a lot of venues have gone under over the last few years, but we've been creating our own opportunities. So with my wife and I, it's a small act, so we can fit in anywhere. So we've been doing coffee houses and showcase kind of stuff. Redbird in Ottawa. Different outdoor venues. There's some outdoor venues around here. So we've been playing our original music and covers mixed in, and doing that live in the park. We've got 5 dates in the town of Perth that we do. We travel around a little bit here, so I've got other shows coming up in the area, just in the duet version sort of thing of this. And we play. I've created all 15 songs as our acoustic set as well. So there's versions with different solo parts and different breaks in them and things like that for our acoustic show. And we've set that for a celebration of the release of the album for August 20th in the town of Perth. We have a theater rented and we're selling tickets for that. And we hope it to be a great event and
Is that
launch the
this elevation concert I see listed on your website? Is events is where I want to look, right? No,
That's right.
what?
Celebration is Elevation. So it'll be a 15 song intimate concert with my wife and I putting it on, and singing in harmony all of my new songs. So
Okay, let
copy.
me see here. This John Dorsch music. The link is in the description for people who want to go there. That's what I'm looking at right now. So, album, you say you just released this album? How long ago did the album come out?
The album went up on streaming on July the 14th, so it's just fresh out. And so we I've just got some CDs here now to for that performance sort of thing. I haven't just physical stuff, but you can obtain that on Spotify or Apple Music and
Yeah.
Deezer platforms. It's up there now for your listening pleasure, and hope you like it. We have a single as well. It's called "Faith in Me." That's was released probably about a week
Faith in
ago.
Me, yeah, and that's the one I was alluding to that had to me it seemed like a lot of Native American influence in it. But I'm just curious now, because CDs, I don't even have a CD player, and I know streaming is the way of the future, and but
I, uh,
there's no real. I mean, to support an artist as a fan, the best way is to buy the physical product. At least, first of all, they can sign it for you. You maybe get, I don't know if you include lyric sheets and all that stuff, but you get some more
I,
information with it rather than just having a audio download that you listen to, right? And so for fans, if you want to support an original artist, the best way is to get physical product, even if like me, you don't have a CD.
Well, if you contact me through the website, if obviously if it gets out of hand, I'll have that done. But I have a stack of CDs here, and I can ship them to the person there. So, all they have to do is contact me through the website, and I'll be more than happy to open one up and sign one personally for them. Of
So
course.
that's the 20th of August is the concert, right?
Yeah.
Um,
So everybody that comes gets a free CD that walks in the door.
that's very cool. Now tell me about the album. Is the album, because my last album that I put out was thematic. It was all about this whole idea of living in the moment. Is this album is it a collection of songs, or did you think about the songs as being part of a larger work when you were writing them?
When I wrote them individually, I wasn't thinking about a theme of linking them together. But when we actually sat with all the lyric sheets, because I was thinking about an album and how we'd put that together and what ones would belong on an album, that kind of thing. I've got more songs written, so some of them didn't make this album. I've got another one I'm working on. Anyway, um, we sat with the lyrics and looked at them, and there's a lot of hope and inspiration and positive messages that flow through the album. And I want music to be uplifting and to take people and move them, and for them to apply their own life experiences and see themselves in the music. That's my goal with that, to try to uplift the human spirit or elevate the human spirit. So the term elevation seemed to come in mind, and my wife had started planted the seed. Actually, I wrote the song Elevation. We were actually traveling through Ecuador and through the Andes Mountains. And this guitar part, I was sitting probably at 10 o'clock at night by myself. She'd gone to bed, and that's usually when I escape to kind of work on stuff so you don't torture your wife with practice, that kind of thing. So I bring a guitar with me. I brought a recorder with me, and that part sort of developed out of I guess it's Tommy Emmanuel inspired, Travis Picking inspired. It just kind of came organically, and I caught it on the recorder because I'm smarter now than I used to be. I bring a recorder with me, so I keep those ideas. So so I did that, and it reminded her of the condors when she had been to Colca Canyon in Peru on her way to Machu Picchu. The condors soaring because the song builds and builds and builds, and then it releases as if the condors are flowing in the valley. So there might be a video coming soon for that song. But anyway, that's where the theme came from, was from that song. And that's why it's the first cut on the album, because it sets the tone and it gives you an idea of what I'm all about right away. I'm just going to lay all the cards right on the table. This is the game we're playing here. It's going to be an acoustic exploration into rock and the blend of it all, and some great
I'm
harmonies because I love melody.
I'm
So
getting the sense that you travel a lot. I mean, you talked about driving to Louisiana. Now we find you in Ecuador in the Andes Mountains. First of all, it sounds like a really inspirational place to be able to create music. But is that a part of your life now? I mean, are you an avid traveler, and is that serve to inspire your art?
I hope to keep the pattern going. So it's like when I was started the policing career, and that pretty much grounds you to where you work, right? So I had wife and three children. They're now 29 and 29. My two boys, it's actually their birthday today, so they've turned 29 today, and my daughter's 30. So they're all doing well. But that was an entire operation for 20 years that kind of took me out of focusing on this, right? So now I'm able to focus back on my music. I was keeping it alive at points, when you're babysitting, not babysitting, but, when you're raising your own
Yeah,
children, so
when you're raising
watching,
children.
watching, we've got three infants together. I've got two boys on the couch there with baby bottles watching Gilligan's Island reruns at 4 a.m. in the morning after night shift, never sleeping for 5 years. But anyway, so it was kind of like that. But I always wanted to travel. Now that we've got to the point where I retired 2 years ago, now I'm able to do that, and I find that's a huge inspiration for music. I find just seeing things I haven't seen before, like the temples in Mexico or the Andes Mountains, or where we traveled into the Amazon. That was piranha fishing in the Amazon. That was like a bucket list crazy item I never thought I would ever do. So we're just going to keep traveling, and going to take my guitar with me and see what I can absorb from the new culture that we find. I'm thinking that's a good way to go.
Is there a spiritual element to your art?
Spiritual. I'm not a religious guy, but I'm a spiritual guy. I believe in, like, the life force of everything, and everything's connected.
That's
And
kind of where what I meant. I mean, I wasn't thinking necessarily like organized religion, but it does seem like some of these places and elevation, and you're talking about, lifting people up. It does seem to have some connection to, just these magical kind of thinking type of thing. And I don't want to make that sound like it's a derogatory thing, but this
it's
idea
not.
of, yeah, yeah,
It's not.
uh,
There was a lot of, you know, in a career of 31 years of policing, I saw a lot, and there's a lot of trauma. I almost lost my life probably a dozen times. I broke my hand. That took me three years to be able to play guitar again.
wow,
Yeah, that happened early in the career. That was in you end up you end up in a fisticuff in the city of Oshawa, and it's like, oh, that really didn't do. There's a guy got arrested, but that didn't really help my guitar playing career for a while. So I had to recover from that. I actually got into the blues because of it, because my this finger right here is just a little shorter, but it's because I badly got the boxer's knuckle here, and so I had to relearn this. But this finger didn't work, so I had to play the blues with three fingers for quite a while
yeah.
to make it all kind of happen and work it back in. So, but it's a crazy world, and there I found music was my source of inspiration, and kind of a way of kind of giving back some hope, I guess, because
Right.
you see it's a tainted negative side from that.
I appreciate that. I don't know if I could go 3 years without playing music. I would probably end up becoming a drummer or something. I'd find some way to make music. I don't 3 years is an awful long time. I was before you were on this morning, I was talking about going about 6 months without recording until yesterday. And that was the longest period since I was 14 years old that I've ever gone without recording a new song, which was astonishing for me. And it happened because of technological reasons. And you fall into a rut after a while after not doing it, that you kind of, it's too much
Absolutely.
work to get back into. But
Yeah,
three
you have to
years,
make.
man.
Yeah, it's easier to maintain your abilities, but like it was really frustrating. I'm doing finger exercises, and I could barely lift this finger once, for the first 6 months, and that was it. Or you get
Wow.
tendonitis, and then it was just one thing after the other for a while. But surprisingly, it came back. It took a long time, but it finally came back. Like, I can't do the Steve Vai stretches anymore, but and that's okay.
Yeah. Okay. Talk to me about your songwriting process. What? Because this is one thing that I am really fascinated by. A lot of people don't get my obsession with asking people about how they write songs. Uh, hey, Janet, I'm on the air. I can't talk to you right now. I'll call you back later. Um, where they come from, because a lot of, even within one person, there can be a variety of different ways they go about writing songs. But for me, I generally think I am almost always concept. It comes from me. I start with, what do I want to say? What do I want to write a song about? What feeling do I want to relay to people? And I almost always start with at least a title or a concept first and develop it from there. But I've seen people who start with music, and I keep going back to this Paul McCartney in the Get Back film for the Beatles, where he's singing melodies, but he's not got any words to it. It's just gibberish, and then he's kind of like pulling the words out of thin air, like out of the ether, and then say, "Oh, write that down. That was good." What is it like for you in writing songs? Where do you start, and how do you go through the whole process of it?
I saw that video you just mentioned, with it was Paul McCartney just kind of mumbling gibberish and in a melody, right? So, and that's the way I kind of developed it myself, because I've never been taught songwriting. I read a bunch of books on it and how to write lyrics and things like that. But you actually have to do it yourself. So, at some point I started to pay attention to the melodies that are going on in my head, and I was like, applying them to the guitar. So it was naturally, I just started applying, and humming lines through the chords I was coming up with. So my music tended to come from, interesting chord shapes or patterns or whatever, the music seemed to be traveling in the music. I've used different techniques like key changes and, different, figures in music, because I've my background in music and things like that. But as far as songwriting goes, it's more organic. I kind of find the music leads me and creates a mood, a feeling. So rather than consciously going, I want to create the feeling. Now I can do it both ways. So with, if I want to create a joyful song like Elevation, I play it, and the music rises, right? And then you release, and then you need to have the dynamics in music. So I'm aware of those different principles. So now when I'm doing my melodies, I'll weave a melody through it, and then I'll apply the lyrics that I've been amassing. I now write lyrics. I text them to myself all the time, because they I develop the themes from that. And then when the mood sort of matches up with the words, that's when it seems to kind of go, that's there's the song, right? And then
Right.
you get the idea. So I've got a bunch of ideas coming up that are kind of organically that way. I have some words and some passages that will apply. I haven't finished them yet. I'll go fresh at them, and they're already inspired. That was from some travel in Mexico. Like on my way to Mexico, I wanted to write a happy song, like, it's time for a change of life. I'm moving on, right? So, because things are so bad in Canada, I thought, hey, maybe we're moving to Mexico. I don't know, so for a while back. So, but anyway, so here we are.
Wait,
So,
wait. Other than the wildfires, maybe I have my uh, impressions all wrong, but I'm thinking Canada, other than the weather and wildfires, it's like paradise up there. I mean, it's a lot more pure than where I live. What?
yeah, the environment wise, it hasn't been ruined here. There's a lot of nature. There's a lot of great people here. Government, of course, is been swinging, more oppressively last little while, that kind of thing.
I
There's
think I think not to get too political, but I don't think you're gonna escape the oppression of government anywhere on this planet. This is People want to control people.
That's
You
right,
know?
exactly. The ruling class wants to control, so it's just a different bag of tricks in a different country. But
Yeah.
yeah, there was lockdowns for almost 6 months while we were traveling. Luckily, we were traveled to Mexico, and so we weren't locked in our house for 6 months. That's where the song was, the reference was. So when we came back, things had just opened up, so we kind of missed that aberration of the bad
Yeah,
situation.
not to again, not to get to sidetrack the conversation, but I think being outdoors is probably the best place in times of a pandemic. The worst thing you want to be is locked into, is with airborne, pathogens. You don't want to be in an indoor space. The best place to be is outdoors, locked in a
It's the
house.
best.
Yeah,
We were kind of lucky that way. I bought a cottage back a dozen years ago, and I fixed it up, and my wife and I live here. So we were like the only two people at our lake for a period of time. You know what I mean? Like it was this kind of blissful, weird experience that we're like the only two left on the planet that are able to walk outside anymore. You know what I mean? Like because our got some grass around here. So.
good for you. Well, I'm glad that you're doing what you love and enjoying your life, and that's what it's all about. You only get one, unless you believe in reincarnation, and I'm not a believer in reincarnation. You only get one chance, and you gotta make this life make you happy and do the things you love. So I'm glad to see that you're pursuing that. Any gripes or complaints about the life and how and the difficulty of getting people to actually, because you talked about a video coming for one of the songs, and my thing it's like a pet peeve of mine is getting people to listen without a video. It's people lost the ability just to sit and listen to a track. They need a video sometimes, and that's a lot of work, and it's a pain in the ass for me. Any kind of grumbles or disenchantment about the life that and I'm not like trying to make this a negative conversation, but I just want to hear the
No,
downside.
it's yeah. I never envisioned myself as a music video producer, but my wife and I have produced several of them just because it was kind of a fun thing to do. Everybody was into like doing their music online at a period of time, and it kind of started there. You can do a fantastic video with a great Samsung phone and a free editor on the computer. So that's what I've been using, like a DaVinci Free version, and it does a great job. So we've been recording cuts and blending them in, and all of a sudden we got not too bad at it. So we got asked to do the Faith in Me video. It says, would there be an accompanying video? And I thought, well, okay. So it took us about 3 days to put that video together. It's a bit of work, of course. There's a
Right.
lot of stuff up on the editing floor, and um, I'm kind of like with you. I don't like to tell the story. I don't want to watch A and B acting in a video. I want them to hear the music. So when we did the Faith in Me, we did that deliberately. We wanted to do vignettes in that, and different things that allowed your mind to feel free to hear that music rather than telling you what it means. So that way you can apply it to your own life. You have faith in yourself, or faith in your partner, or faith in your ability to survive, or whatever it might mean to you. So we kind of crafted it that way. It was easier to do rather than an acting script, of course, but because I don't want to watch myself acting in the movie. I'd rather watch somebody else. But
I understand.